In this video, I'm only reading mysteries and thrillers for a week, which is definitely not something I normally do. I very rarely pick up books within these genres, and I don't really know if it was a good idea because, I mean, I did film the rest of this video like 2 months ago, and I've been in a reading slump ever since. Now, I'm not saying these books are 100% to blame because they definitely aren't. I mean, life and school and everything has just sort of, you know, gotten in the way of reading time. The point is, this set me out of my norm, and then I was never able to come back. Anyway, enjoy the video. I'm 94 pages into Pride and Premeditation by Tirzah Price. This is a Jane Austen murder mystery based on Pride and Prejudice, if you couldn't tell. To be completely honest with you, I have not read Pride and Prejudice, nor have I seen the movies or any of the TV shows or like any sort of adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. My knowledge of Pride and Prejudice is somewhat limited, but I do know about the hand flex scene in the 2005 movie. I know Pride and Prejudice is a Regency romance where people go from house to house and talk. And I feel like that's really all I need to know. Like, do I really need to know anything more? So this is like all of that, like same name, same era, same everything, just add in a little bit of murder. Lizzie wants to be a lawyer like her father, but she's a woman and this is a Regency era book. So she's expected to get married and just be a wife for the rest of her life. So in order to like prove herself to like her father, to be like, I can be a lawyer too, she wants to like solve a case. Darcy is the lawyer of the suspect and he's just trying to play like defense and just being like, oh, like it couldn't have been my guy, like he didn't do it. Lizzie and Darcy are kind of going head to head because they want to defend the suspect, but they both want to do it in different ways. Like Lizzie more so wants to solve the case instead of defend the suspect, which is more of like detective work than lawyer work, but what do I know? This says Lizzie discovers that her dream career could make her happy, but it also might get her killed. I feel like that's pretty high stakes for like what I've read so far. It doesn't feel that high stakes. When I think of murder mysteries, I feel like I think of like cozy books, which murder's not very cozy. Due to the fact that I've watched Bridgerton, I'm imagining this setting as something that's like kind of like, ooh, light florals. It's daytime all the time. Like, I don't know, that's kind of the vibe I get from this, and that's not usually the vibe that goes with murder mysteries. But Pinterest allowed me to like understand the vibe better. Now my schedule hasn't really allowed me to read very much of this book. I mean, I started it on Monday and it's now Thursday. 94 pages in. It takes me a lot of time to go to and from class, and I'm thinking it might be a good idea to like listen to the audiobook when I'm getting to class. I'm just thinking that would be a good use of my time, but I've never been like really big on audiobooks, so like I'll have to see if this works for me. I downloaded the audiobook through Libby and I actually have to like leave for class within the next 10 minutes, so I'll let you know if I like the audiobook. I'm 256 pages into Pride and Premeditation, which means I only have like 100 pages left, and I want to talk to you about the audiobook. With this particular book, I would actually rather read it than listen to the audiobook because I just don't really like the narration. I'm not a big fan of the voice or the accent, but I appreciate how much I was able to like get through while just walking to class. Okay, enough about the audiobook. I want to talk about the story itself. There's a lot of tension between Lizzie and the others, and I think the tension's good. Tension is always a fun thing to read. Throughout this book, I haven't really been trying to guess who the murderer is, and I feel like that's probably because I don't care. Unfortunately for this book, I'm reading it after I read Truly Devious and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This book just doesn't compare to how like engaging those books are. I feel like the last 100 pages of a lot of books go really crazy, and that's obviously no different for a mystery and thriller. I feel like those tend to have more plot twists than like any other genre, so I am hoping these last 100 pages go absolutely crazy. I want to get this done. I'm going to try to read the rest of it in one sitting, but let's see if I'm actually successful. How convenient. I finished Pride and Premeditation. I want to rate this 3 stars, but I didn't like it as much as some of my other 3-star reads. But I feel like 2 stars is too low. Maybe like 2.75? I don't know. I was bored. I'm gonna be so honest with you. I feel just kind of like disappointed in the book as a whole. It was sort of just lacking luster. Also, this book is kind of marketed as like a romantic mystery, but like the romance is just like not really there. It doesn't really hit. It's not all that good. Also, how old is Darcy? Because she's 17. I know it was a different time, but I still find that weird. I feel like I was just kind of left wanting more, not in the fact that I'm like, ooh, I need a sequel. That was so good. Give me more. More as a, oh, that was kind of unfulfilling. I wish it gave me more. I'm not going to continue with the series. I don't think it really makes sense for me to do it if I didn't like this one. But the second cover is so cute, and it's called Sense and Second Degree Murder. It's kind of clever, so I'm kind of sad that I didn't love it. The third one is called Manslaughter Park. Like, I feel like the idea is just so good, but the execution wasn't great, but it also wasn't terrible. I feel like the book also has like pretty mixed reviews from people that have read Pride and Prejudice. Some people are saying this is nothing like Pride and Prejudice. Others are complaining that she like ripped off some of Jane Austen's quotes and like used it word for word. I can't really speak on that matter, but I wasn't a fan. Well, the back of the book says this is a clever, twisting murder mystery adaptation that will keep both Austen fans and newcomers on their toes. As a newcomer, I did not think it was clever and twisting. I thought it was boring. I don't know. I just don't want to go too ham. Like, I don't think it's a bad book, but I wouldn't recommend it. What to read next? We have You, which is a thriller. And we have Murder Your Employer, The McMasters Guide to Homicide, which is a mystery thriller. Here's where my brain's at. I think this is far less intimidating because I mean, I've seen the show. I feel like this book is so much more intimidating. And like, I don't know if I should try the intimidating first and then go for something that I think would be easier. It seems like a straightforward novel, and this does not seem straightforward at all. One of the funniest books of the year? What? Highly entertaining warning, readers could die laughing. Murder set in an imaginary academy set up to train murderers. I came across this book because it was laying out on a Barnes & Noble table because I think it was like their book club pick a couple of months ago. I picked it up because I thought the cover was like kind of interesting. Like, I think it looks cool. Then an employee came up to me and was like, that book is amazing. You have to read it. And then I was like, okay. My initial plan was to read You first, but I'm thinking if this is funny, it's not as intimidating to me. My final choice is I'm going to be reading You by Caroline Keynes. I'm 132 pages into You, and it's even more like sick and twisted than I thought it would be. The language is so vulgar. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with the show, but the book is like 10 times more twisted. Guess who forgot to give a synopsis on a book she did a reading vlog on? I guess I just assumed everyone's familiar with the show You, starring Penn Badgley. But here we go. Our narrator Joe meets Beck and is immediately obsessed with her. Aw, how cute. I love. No. He like stalks her and plants himself into her life, and he desperately wants to be like her number one person, and like he wants her to be reliant on him in a way that's just like not healthy. I mean, he stalks her. His thoughts are very twisted, but that's the fun of it. I guess I could tell you that they meet because he works at a bookstore and she buys a book and he sees her name on her credit card and then is like, okay, she's in love with me. Why else would she let me see her name on her credit card? Okay, sending you back to Erin. Joe from the show is somewhat likable, but Joe from the book is awful. Just completely awful. Like, there's nothing really redeeming about him. His thoughts are just so much more intense and creepy. And this book is written in such an interesting way. I feel like most books, you know, it's like, she did this, she said that, and it's always you. You said this, you said that. I mean, I assumed there was going to be a lot of you statements, but I didn't expect it to be like almost every single sentence saying you. Like it says, you laugh and you shake your head and you're listening to me at the point when most people drift. This book is just so interesting, and the way that like every single word has been so thought out to like match what would be going on in his head. It's genuinely just so eerie and creepier than the show, and now I understand why Penn Badgley doesn't want to play Joe anymore. It's just so odd to think that, like, people have a crush on him, like, after reading what I have read so far. Anyway, I'm definitely gonna keep reading.
Can we go back to that place? 'Cause I never wanted you to leave. Looking back on our past, I don't wanna be just another memory. I don't wanna forget, no, and I don't wanna do what's wrong.
6 pages into You, which means I only have like a little over 100 pages left. I feel kind of uncomfortable while reading this book, but I feel like that's the point. I think I tend to steer clear from thrillers because, like, why would I want to feel uncomfortable? It's just kind of odd reading from, like, the villain's perspective, but the villain is not likable. Like, it's not one of those times when you're, like, reading from the perspective of a villain and you're supposed to like the villain. One of the scariest parts about this is that anyone can really see themselves as Beck. She's not exactly, like, normal, but, like, that could have happened to anyone. That could have been just, like, any random person he just started obsessing over. The idea of reading more of his thoughts and finishing this book, like, makes my heart race. And it's not in the same way that, like, my favorite books make my heart race. It's because I'm low-key scared. I just imagine thriller lovers reading this and being like, that was so tame. I'm, like, trying to hype myself up. I think I'm ready to finish You. But, like, why? My heart is beating so fast. Like, why? It's words on a page. I can't even imagine myself reading horror. Why would you, like, purposefully want to be on edge? I guess it's kind of similar to, like, roller coasters. I really like roller coasters, but I don't find them scary. I think words on a page are scarier than roller coasters. You got this, Erin. You can do it. It's just words on a page. You literally know how it's gonna end. You already know your mom loves this. She would never have you read something that was bad. So I finished You last night. I'm trying to figure out, like, how to articulate this. It's very concerning, maybe, reading his thoughts. Reading about the thoughts behind the actions, I think, just overall makes it all creepier, which I feel like I've already kind of said before. The book is, like, 10 times creepier than the show. It gives me such an uneasy feeling, which is definitely, like, the point of thrillers, and I'm just, like, reminding myself that, like, that you're supposed to feel that way. I'm having such a hard time trying to decide what I want to rate this book because I feel like I usually rate books based on if I had a good time reading it or not. I mean, there's also a couple of other factors that go into my ratings, but for the most part, it's did I have a good time reading this book? I didn't have a good time reading it, but I can still say that it's good. I don't know that I like being this on edge while reading a book. I think this book is just, like, telling me thrillers aren't necessarily for me, but I can do mystery. My goal was sort of to just try new things, and I was really hoping that I would enjoy thrillers, but I don't think they're for me. But I also think I want to leave this unrated because I do think it's interesting. And I just genuinely don't know where to put this on a scale. Because I feel like if I rate it 4 stars, that means I had a good time. I didn't have a good time, but if I rate it any lower, that means, like, I didn't like the book as a whole. And I think the writing and the story genuinely is very interesting and very good. But I don't know. My brain doesn't know how to function when reading thrillers. I think I would much rather process a fantasy or romance or even just a straight mystery thriller maybe even, but not just straight up thriller. I see so many people doing 24 hours of reading thrillers and I think I would go crazy. If you can convince me to read a thriller and I genuinely like it, I might propose. Joe is just, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be thinking about him a lot. I feel like everywhere I go now, I'm going to be, like, checking all my surroundings and, like, looking out for Joe. Like that, like, it's freaking me out. No, because I'm going to start spiraling. I'm going to read Murder Your Employer now. The McMasters Guide to Homicide, Volume 1. A funny, fast-paced flip through the playbook mystery, like a combination of Hogwarts, Downton Abbey, and The White Lotus. I like The White Lotus. Okay, wait, I'm gonna show you something real quick. I have my favorite TV shows here, and The White Lotus is right there. Anyway, now I'm gonna start Murder Your Employer. I'm 123 pages into Murder Your Employer. Basically, this is a guide / textbook that goes along with the McMasters Conservatory for the Applied Arts. It's a school that teaches people how to successfully commit murder, but it's in a way where a lot of times people don't even realize that that person was murdered. They just assume they died in another way. But there's a lot of rules on like termination, and they like won't call it murder, they call it deletion, and they make sure that the person actually deserves it. / the world has to be like a better place without the victim there, and they can't have like mourners. But this book itself would be like what new students read when they're like accepted into the academy. So this is volume 1, and it's all about murdering your employer rather than anybody else. The guide has 3 cases of characters that would have attended the school and like their experience / a lot of their journals are included in here so that future students can like learn from them. I think the idea is so cool, and so far I think it has been like executed well. You know what it actually reminds me of is Daisy Jones and the Six, and how there's like an author's note at the beginning of the book. The author of this is like a character in the book rather than Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's the same thing with this. So like this says it's from the Chronicles of Dean Harbinger Harrow, and it's edited by Rupert Holmes when he's like the actual author. But like the guy that wrote this book is that character. The book itself is kind of quirky and kind of reminds me of, I haven't read the books, but the show, A Series of Unfortunate Events. Just like how it's supposed to be like a dark show, but I mean that show's for kids. Or I guess it was a book series first. The books are for kids. But it can be viewed as like quirky and funny as well. This book has that dark academia setting, but it isn't dark. I think this book is just more cozy than anything. I don't really have strong opinions on the book yet, but I would like to finish it today, so I'm gonna keep reading, and I'll keep you updated on the book, my thoughts on the book. This check-in's gonna be kind of short. I'm 268 pages into Murder Your Employer. I feel like there was some momentum pretty recently in the book, and then all of a sudden, it just slowed way down. A lot of what I've read so far in this book has sort of been dragging along. Like, it's not a very fast-paced book, which isn't always bad, but there's so much detail in here that, like, sometimes I find it to be a little bit boring. I'm just like, okay, we get it. Like, did you have to tell me that? Like, we get it. Come on, let's speed things up a little bit. I'm interested to see how the 3 stories pan out, but I just wish they would pan out a little faster. Anyway, I'm on the home stretch. I would like to finish this tonight, but I don't know if that will happen. If it doesn't, what can you do? I finished Murder Your Employer, and I think I want to rate it like 3.5 stars. I kind of liked how things played out. I think the book is very clever and it's funny at certain parts, but I don't think it's anything outwardly like special. It's not exactly up my alley, and I know that there's supposed to be more books in this series, but I don't know if I'll want to pick them up or not, because there were parts that just dragged along. Like, it was a little boring at parts. But if you're into like more cozy books, I feel like you would like it. Honestly, I'm not really like thrilled with like the books I read in this video. I thought 2 of the books were kind of boring, and then I was scared of the other, which I've just been like thinking more and more about you, and I feel like I should rate it high because it did its job. And also, so many of you like thrillers, and I don't want to be that Debbie Downer. I don't think it's really like worth it picking up books that I'm not a big fan of. I want to be open to trying new things, but if I don't like something, like, I'm not gonna push myself to like keep going with it. Like, I feel like if I'm not having fun, why am I doing it? Now I just feel sad that I didn't like have any reads that I loved. This might be just a straight 3-star read after all. Anyway, I don't really have much to add. If you have like a favorite mystery book or a thriller that you think I might like maybe, and you want to comment that, or even comment it for like other people to stumble upon, that would be really great. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you would like, comment, subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. I will see you at some point or another. Bye!